This will serve as our pre-recorded video or pre-recorded lesson discussion pertaining to our first lesson, which is chemical formula. So without further ado, let's start our discussion for the first slide. Okay, so since I've already mentioned chemical formula, let's define first what is chemical formula. Of course, chemical formula is a symbolic representation of a molecule's composition. It indicates a two definition, which is the elements that are present in the compound and the ratio of these elements in the compound. Chemical formula is eventually the combination between the two elements. How can you write a certain chemical formula? Of course, it represents a single element combining to another single element. Okay, so now let's proceed. A chemical formula is also called as molecular formula. The symbol in molecular formula tell us about the elements, and the subscript tell us how many atoms of that element are present in one molecule. Of course, in writing a molecular formula, you cannot say that you will be writing the name or the symbol of a certain element, but also you have to look for the subscript or the number in a certain element. So later on, I will be discussing to you how can you get the subscript of a certain element when it is combined to another element. Okay, let's proceed. So this is actually the example for a simple example for a how to make a chemical formula, or how can you create a chemical formula by a two combination element. Like for example, the molecule which is water. As we all know, water is a combination of hydrogen and oxygen. It is actually consists of two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom. So the two number here is your subscript. I will be explaining it one by one later part. So just listen to this explanation. It is therefore represented by the chemical formula H2O. Lack of a subscript on the oxygen indicates one atom of oxygen per water molecules. Yes, kasi when you write a subscript, if it is 1, invisible na siya. Pwede mo na siyang hindi lagyan ng 1 sa oxygen. You can put oxygen itself because it is 1 subscript. Okay? Pwede mo na siyang ilagay lang mismo oxygen kasi pwede na natin siyang sabihin na 1 ang subscript ng oxygen. Pero kung more than 1, you have to put the subscript. Okay? Sodium chloride, or a common salt, contains equal number of sodium and chlorine atoms, and it is represented by the formula NaCl. So since the number of sodium and chlorine atoms is equal, you cannot write the subscript of it. So meron ng 1 sodium and 1 chloride, so hindi na kailangan lagyan ng subscript. Okay? As I've said, if 1 ang subscript ng each element, hindi na siya kailangan lagyan ng subscript. Then the symbol of the element will serve as your subscript, which is 1. So sulfuric acid, or H2SO4, contains 3 elements: hydrogen, oxygen, and sulfur in ratio. So in ratio, it is 2:4:1. Okay. As we can see here, that the hydrogen is actually has a 2 subscript, while the sulfur is only 1 subscript, and the oxygen is 4. So as I've said, if it is only 1, you cannot write the 1 na just the symbol of the element. So that's why it makes H2SO4. Okay? So let's proceed. So in writing the chemical formula, of course, we have to follow a certain step. So there are I think a lot of steps in following or in writing a chemical formula. So number 1 step, write down the symbol of the elements, ions which combine to form a molecule of the compound side by side. So for example, a very simple example on writing a chemical formula is water. So you have to write down the symbols of the elements. So since the water is a combination of hydrogen and oxygen, you have to write it first. So the symbol for water, we have hydrogen and oxygen. Next, we have, while writing the formula of compound containing a metal and non-metal, the symbol of the metal is written first, followed by that of the non-metal. Two metals do not join up to form compounds. So always remember that in putting or writing a chemical formula, you have to write first metal than non-metal. So meaning to say, in writing a chemical formula, you have to write first the metal, then followed by the non-metal. So always remember that one, ha? So first you have to write the symbol of the element, which is hydrogen and oxygen. Then afterwards, you have to deal with the first to write. Ano yung unang isusulat? Of course, you have to write first the metal, then followed by the non-metal. Okay, let's proceed to another. Then, aside from that, let's go now to you have to write the valency of each element. So, in our periodic table, you can eventually saw or seen the valency number of each element. So, I will be showing to you the valency number, ha. Meron akong summarization picture dito. Ito na lang yung magiging basihan nyo for you to easily know the valency number of a certain element. Next, we have interchanged the valencies of the element, ions, and write as the subscript. Write them close together and ignore the one to obtain the formula. Okay, so in writing the valency of each element, there is a word here, interchange. So meaning to say, if the hydrogen has a two subscript and the oxygen has one subscript, you have to change it. So literally, so hydrogen has a two subscript, i-change mo siya sa subscript ng oxygen. So si oxygen 1 yung subscript, i-change mo. So magiging 1C tama. Magiging 2 wait lang ha, i-correct natin. Ang valency ito nasa taas. Ang valency number pala ni hydrogen is 1 and valency number or the subscript number of oxygen is 2. So dito sa step na to, sabi dito interchange. So meaning to say you have to change. So since 1 yung number ni hydrogen, pwede siyang i-change siya sa step na to. So meaning to say 2 na ang magiging subscript ni hydrogen at 1 ang magiging subscript ni oxygen. Okay, naintindihan ba? At makikita nyo dito that there is a sign. So, in valency number or subscript number, just set aside the sign. Hindi muna natin isasali ang mga charges. Either the subscript is positive and negative, it's okay. Set aside that one. Okay? So, next, we have the radical polyatomic ions must be written in the brackets before the subscript is written. In case the number of polyatomic ion is 1, the bracket is not required. For example, the sodium, we have NaOH here. So, it is not necessary to put the bracket. Why? Because the subscript of the sodium here and oxygen and hydrogen is 1. So, hindi na kailangan ng bracket dito. Always remember that in case the number of polyatomic ion is 1, or the number of polyatomic or the subscript of each element is 1, you cannot, it is not required for you to write a bracket. Okay? Naintindihan? Yes, if you have a question, clarification, you can leave that in our GC. Next, we have, so as I've said a while ago, that I will be giving you a summarization of how you can indicate the valence number of each element. So as you can see here, meron tayong nilagay. So the upper one, like for example 1, 2, 3, and 4, 3, 2, 1, that is the valence number of each element. Okay? So each element in a certain group has a, for example, if it is a 1, valence number from hydrogen to francium, 1 na siya. Okay? Sorry. So if in the next group we have 2, from beryllium to the radium, it is 2. Okay? Yan. Ganyan natin ilalagay ang valence number natin. So susundin ito. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So that is, and 0 of course for the helium. And for the helium, yes. Okay, so follow the number of the valency. So you can use this for you to easily see the valence number of each element. Okay? So next, so whenever applicable, write simple ratio of the valencies. So what is this called simple ratio? Okay, you have to simplify the number of valency into the lowest form. So this is applicable if the valency number is whole number. Like for example, 4, 2, yan. You can simplify it. 2 to 1, 4 to 2, right? So, whenever you can use it, whenever you use the ratio, you have to, to know that the, no. You have to consider that the valence number, sorry, the valence number is whole number. So, what are those whole number? We have 4 and 2. Kapag 1 and 3 na, hindi na kailangan maglagay ng ratio number. So, the final formula must be written without any sign of the charge. Like I've said a while ago, that even though the valence number has charges, it is not applicable to use it. So, iset aside lang muna natin si charges kasi hindi pa yan kailangan. Okay? I have here some example for you to know how to write a chemical formula. So, these are the following example. It is actually very easy from the steps. If you follow the steps and rules how to write the chemical formula, eventually you can easily know what is the chemical formula if you combine a certain element. Like for example, water. Ito, write the simple HO, then write the valency of each element. We have 1 and 2, then interchange. As I've said, if you have to interchange, the word interchange, you have to swap. I-change mo yung subscript ng or valence number ng element mo. So si oxygen ay 2, i-change niya kay hydrogen which is 1. So magiging hydrogen 2, oxygen 1. So since it is not applicable naman to make it to a lowest form, hindi naman kailangan. So right now, the chemical formula. So as I've said, ignore the 1. So kapag may 1 ng subscript ng isang element, hindi na kailangan lagyan pa ng 1. Invisible na siya, constant na magiging 1 na si oxygen. So the chemical formula for water is H2O. So now, let's proceed to another. We have hydrogen sulfide. So hydrogen sulfide contains the elements hydrogen and sulfur. Okay, since it is contains an element hydrogen and sulfur, you have to write the symbol. So what is the symbol for that? We have hydrogen and sulfur, H and S. So write the valency of each element. Of course, 1 and 2, then interchange of that one. Isa-swap mo na naman. Then, eventually, the chemical formula for hydrogen sulfide is H2OS. Sorry, H2S. Okay? So now, let's proceed to another chemical formula or another compound. We have carbon tetrachloride. So, carbon tetrachloride, this contains the elements carbon and chlorine. So, write the symbol. Of course, carbon is for C and chlorine is for Cl. Write the valency of the element. You can see that in my summarization, yung pinakita ko sa yung illustration, 4 and 1. So, interchange, swap it again. We have carbon now is 1 and Cl now is 4 or chlorine is 4. So, write them close together and ignore 1. So, it makes out from the carbon tetrachloride, the chemical formula would be CCl4. Okay, so it's very simple, right? So how about in the carbon dioxide? Carbon dioxide contains 2 elements. What are those? We have carbon and oxygen. Of course, you have to write the symbol. We have carbon and oxygen, then also write the valency of each element, which is 4 and 2. So, this time, you have to interchange the valence number. So, from 4, the carbon here will now 2, and the oxygen here we have 4. So, in this subscript number or in this valency number, you have to write the simple ratio. Diba? Pwede na natin siyang i-simple ratio. Bakit? The both subscript from carbon to oxygen is whole number. 2 and 4. So, i-simplify natin into a lowest form. Okay, for carbon, we have 1. And for oxygen, we have 2. Okay? So, 1 and 2. Ang simplest form ni carbon coming from the 2 subscript and oxygen coming from the 4 subscript. So, write them close together and ignore 1. So, it is now CO2. Okay, so that's it. So let's proceed to another slide. So an element A combines with an oxygen. The valency of an A is 3. What will be the formula? So write the symbol. Okay, it is now A and O. So write the valency of each element. We have 3 and 2. Okay, so in this part, the element A is eventually combined with the oxygen, So in this question, the question gave already for the A element, its subscript, 'di ba? Nabigay na. So A is 3, while the oxygen, of course, in the valency number doon sa pinakitang illustration, 2 siya. So write the valency of each element. We have 3 and 2, then interchange it. So yun na, isoswap lang, i-change lang. So in A now is for having a 2 subscript and oxygen now having a 3 subscript. Okay, write them close together. Okay, ignore 1 to obtain the formula. So since walang 1, all of the number is in 2 and 3, so you have to write the subscript. So A2O3. Okay, so that's it. So for the continuation, this is another example. We have sulfide. Okay, write the simple sulfide of A. Write the symbol, which is A is for A and S. So write the valency of each element. 2, 2, interchange. Paulit-ulit lang din. Yan. So ignore the number 1. So bakit siya naging AS? Why you didn't have to write the subscript? Why? Because the both subscript is whole number. So 2 you can eventually divide it to another. That's the subscript of A is 2. You can divide it, so it is automatic 1. So that's why i-ignore mo na lang, and that's why it makes AS. Okay? So 2 can be divided into another subscript of A. So the sulfur here 2, divide it to the subscript of A, which is 2. Then the answer is actually 1, right? Then, so it is 1, hindi na kailangan natin isulat. So, ignore it. So, it makes us AS. Okay? So, another example, an element of an A forms its chloride and sulfide. The valency of A is 2. What will be the formula of its chloride and sulfide? So, for the chloride, I write the symbol. We have A and chlorine. So, write the valency of each element. We have 2 and 1. Then interchange it. Paulit-ulit lang din, di ba? Then write them close together and ignore 1. So it makes a Cl2. Okay? Another example. So an element of a form an oxide, which is A subscript 2 and oxygen subscript 5. Find out its valency. So what will be the formula of its bromide? So in this case, all of the element is given by the valency number. Meron na siyang valency number, so hindi mahirap. So write the symbol. We have A for 2, A and oxygen. Then write the valency of an element, 2 and 5. So in this case, as you can see, there are another calculation that will be solving in this part. Kasi bakit? The A here, you have to what? Dapat the same sila ni oxygen. So since the valence of each element, for oxygen we have 2, and for A is wala pa, blanco. So dapat magiging balance siya. Paano? So since the valency of an oxygen dito na part is 5, then of course the subscript number, the valency number of oxygen also is 2. You have to multiply it. So 5 times 2 is 10. For oxygen, okay na. So paano siya magiging balance? From the A, you have to put also 5. Kasi 5 times 2 also is 10. So kailangan lang maging balance dito, itong dalawa. Okay? So, since for oxygen, we have the valency of each element, 5. Then the A is 2. Then the balance of each element naman, of atom, we have here A is 5 and oxygen is 2. So, kailangan mo lang i-balance. So, in the compound A, 2, and O5, the total valency of 2 atom of A should be equal to the valency of 5 atom of oxygen. So, it makes us a 10. Therefore, the valency of A element is 5. Yun na nga. Kailangan lang maging balanse. So, if oxygen have a 5 and 2, so you have to multiply it. So, it will be 10. So, dapat balanse si oxygen kay A. So, since blanco pa dito, of course, ano yung number na makakabalanse? So, since it is actually the same lang din, ilalagay lang natin ng 5. So, 5 times 2 equals also 10. So, you have to balance A to oxygen. So, hindi pa nagtatapos kasi we will be looking to the element bromide. We will be making the chemical formula for bromide. So, continuation of it, bromide of A when its valency is 5. So, let's now write the symbol A and bromine. So, write the valency of each element. So, we have 5 and 1. Okay, so interchange the valency of subscript. We have A1 and bromine 5. So, the formula will be ABr5. So, ignore the 1, right? So, that's it. So, that is the continuation of this part. Okay, so I know that you will be questioning me, where does the oxygen now, ma'am, in this formula? Of course, mawawala na siya because you are focusing on the bromide. So, from the given formula, it is actually the combination of an element A2 and O5. So, it makes the formula bromide. So, from A2O5, it will makes your formula or the chemical formula of bromide. It is from the given. Constant na ito siya. So, that is why, if you are creating the what they call this, the chemical formula for bromide, oxygen, mawawala na si oxygen. Since it is balanced also. Balanced naman din that you have to give the element A as 5. It is balanced now to the oxygen. So, yan. Ganyan lang. Okay, if you have question clarification on this, you can ask me on our GC or just PM me. Okay? So, that's it. That is the end of our discussion for this lesson. Okay, I have here a common chemical formula list. So, just read it. Just actually familiarize it kasi makakatulong din sa inyo ito sa examination. Okay, if you have question clarification, you can leave that one in our GC. So, thank you very much, everyone.